Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Top tips from a longtime hunter and guide. This we're going to talk about today on Gunfighter Life. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, hunting the right way, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm blessed to serve you as host. Bullet points for the bio are in the show notes. Okay. First of all, just want to say that putting meat on the table, providing for your family is a good manly quality. Hunting is a way to do that. Nothing wrong with other ways of doing that, but I like hunting. I just really enjoy it, the pursuit of it, the challenge of it. I like feeding my family. I'll tell this story, hopefully you guys don't mind. A little rabbit hole here. My wife, who I love, we're blessed to have a good marriage, which sadly seems rare today. My mother-in-law, her mom, city girl, Central Florida. My wife invited her out here since we're blessed to have we're not nomadic anymore. We actually have a place with a foundation. And she invited her out here for Thanksgiving. Her one question, my wife told me, she asked, will there be elk? You see, last year came out when we were still nomadic, and I had just gotten an elk by God's grace. And, elk's hundreds and hundreds of pounds of meat. So we had a lot of meat to process. She at first was not sure that she was going to be able to do that. And by the end of that, she was slicing off raw hunks of meat and eating them, as I like to do, because it's good. And this year, upon her return, her one question was, will there be elk? Well, that's in God's hands, but I sure intend to get us an elk. And it'd be nice. My wife also got an elk. Organic, grass-fed, tuna-free, red meat. Anyway, hunting, especially big game hunting, my favorite, spot and stalk still hunting. Been blessed to do it all over this beautiful country. That's what we're going to talk about today and some top tips. Now, let's get into the tips. The first one may shock you. Be in the field. And by field, I mean the bush, the forest, the mountains. Be where the game is. I don't care if you have the best, most accurate .0001 MOA rifle and the most magnum cartridge with the best optic and boots that make you levitate up the side of a mountain. If you're not in the field, you're not going to kill anything. You need to be in the field, spending time in the field. That's your number one thing. You could have a bad rifle, a bad foggy optic, bad you hunting in tennis shoes. If you're in the right place and the animal is there, you can probably get one. You're never going to get one without spending time in the field. So spend time in the field. That's the big one. The more you're in the field, the more you'll learn. And where you hunt is probably way different than where I hunt. You probably live east of the Mississippi, where most people live. It's way different than the Rocky Mountain, Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. You're going to learn whatever ecosystem you're in by actually being out there under the firmament in God's creation, enjoying it and learning about it. So be in the field. That may seem simple, but be in the field. I love ballistic nerdery as much as the next guy, but whether I have a 7 Rem mag in my hand or a 243, it's probably way less important than if I'm actually there when the game is there. Spend time in the field, and not just during hunting season, but spend time in the field scouting. I don't care if you have OnX and topographical maps, and all that stuff is good, and it's a good tool to have, but it doesn't take the place of boots on the ground, in the field. Be in the field. Again, that may sound super simple, but be in the field. If you can have the option to like work an extra day at work so you can buy more fancy stuff, or take the day off and spend it in the field, spend it in the field. Be in the field. It's the number one thing that I'm going to tell you, be in the field. The next one, be where the animal is, not where you want it to be. You might want to be on a nice sunny slope, back against a tree, watching the sun come up. That's fine, but if that's not where the deer are, if you're there to kill a deer or an elk or whatever, you're not going to, because that's not where they are. Be where the deer are. Refer to tip number 1, spend time to learn where they are, but you have to hunt where they are. If they're in a deep, nasty, mosquito-infested swamp, that's probably where you should be. You need to be where the deer are. You need to learn where that is. You know, deer will often learn pretty quickly when hunting season starts. You can ride around in your quad on the road, but if everybody else is riding around on the road, guess where the deer probably aren't going to be? On the road where they can hear your quad. You might have to hike to where there aren't a bunch of vehicles and a bunch of people road hunting, because that's probably where the deer are, because they don't want to get shot. So you need to put in some work and be where the deer are, not where you want them to be. Be where the deer are, not where you want them to be. If the deer were just where you wanted them to be, if you were just in it for the meat and you didn't like the challenge, you'd probably just shoot one in your backyard. Be where the deer are, not where you want them to be. You might have to climb several thousand feet of elevation if you're out west to be where the deer are when hunting season starts. You have to go down in some deep, dark, nasty timber knowing you have to haul an elk out of there, because that's where the elk is, not where you want it to be. It would be great if it was on a logging road and you could just back your truck in and throw it in. That's the kind of hunting you like, but that's probably not where the elk is. You need to be where the animal is, not where you want it to be. Another one, deer especially. Most, big game hunters in America are, by and large, white-tailed deer hunters. White-tailed deer are an edge species. Again, be where the deer are. They like edges, the edges of fields and forests, the edges of forests and marshes, the edges of meadows or prairies. They're an edge species. One of the reasons I think we have more deer today than we had when Columbus landed, and I've heard that in places more than once, in places that I trust to think that it's true, is that we as humans create a lot of edges. Edges of farm fields, edges of suburbs and forest, edges of different environments. So, especially for white-tailed deer hunters, if you're hunting white-tailed deer, remember they're an edge species. So remember that and look for edges. They are an edge species. The next one, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Now, don't make any so egregious it's going to get you killed, but hunting can be dangerous. But make mistakes. Make mistakes. It's okay. I primarily like to spot and stalk, track, still hunt, that kind of hunting. Even for a lion or a pride of lions that hunt in packs, the majority of their stalks are failures. More often it's a failure than not. You can't just give up. You have to make mistakes. I'll spook deer often, and they'll be gone before I can get a shot off. Sometimes I'll walk up to a deer and it'll still be sleeping in its bed. That's kind of like the pinnacle for me of tracking or stalking. You get up to an animal close and it's still asleep or it's still bedded down. It's not even alert that you're there. But you're probably not going to do that unless you make a bunch of mistakes first on other scenarios. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay. I'm going to tie this in because it was a request for a whole other episode, but I'm going to cover it here, and this is going to be tips for butchering as well. And this ties in so nicely to the last tip that I had. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? It's not going to explode it's not a bomb. The dead deer, the dead elk, it's not a bomb. It's not going to kill you. As far as butchering goes, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if it's not the prettiest steak ever, right? If worse comes to worse, grind it. It'll be fine. It's not rocket science. Right when you get up to the animal, the beast, slit its throat, let the blood run out. Right, we see that in Leviticus. Whatever man of the children of Israel, or of the stranger who dwells among you, who hunts and catches any animal or bird that may be eaten, he shall pour out its blood and cover it with dust. NIV version, any Israelite or any foreigner residing among you who hunts any animal or bird that may be eaten must drain out the blood and cover it with earth. Get the blood out. It's a commandment. It also helps preserve the meat. What's a common recurring theme of the Word of God? The preservation of life. Get the blood out of the meat. Get the guts out. There are several different methods for that, but it's not rocket science. Back east, which again is where most people hunt, and they hunt for white-tailed deer, it's common to drag a deer out whole because most places back east you're within a few miles of a road. Most places you're not having to live in the bush for long periods of time to get into areas. There's no place back east that far from a road. So a lot of times you'll drag a deer out whole and or gut it. It's not rocket science. Start at the genitals and cut up to the base of the ribs and grab out everything inside there. And then drag it out. Or drag it out whole and do that at home. It doesn't really matter. You can hang it up hind legs first. You can hang it up antlers first. Start at the base of the rib cage and go to the genitals or vice versa and pull out everything in there. I like to take the heart and the liver, some of my favorite things to eat. But pretty much everything else that's not meat, you get rid of it. Yeah, you might mess up and poke into the guts. It's okay, right? Despite what people may say, if it gets on the meat is not ruined. Just wash it off. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to kill you. Pull out the guts and then take off the hide. Yeah, you're probably going to mess up and cut through the hide and get hair on the meat. Again, wash it off. It's okay. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Don't be afraid of it. Remove the skin, and then you know what meat looks like. Start cutting it off. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But it's not like if you mess up, somebody's going to flog you. It's okay. For out west, the way that I like to hunt, you're probably carrying it out on your back. You're probably carrying out in a pack, which means you're probably at least quartering it and likely boning it out, removing the meat from the bone. I like the gutless method, which basically you just kind of make an incision, a lot of times running down the base of the spine from the back of the skull to the tail, and you just remove the hide piece by piece, and you just start removing large pieces of meat till you get down to the bone, and you debone it. One piece at a time. On something like an elk that's several hundred pounds of meat, it's going to take a while, but it's not rocket science, and it might just depend on how the elk is laying. I had a time last year because I shot my elk in a real steep canyon, and I just kind of had to make do. But you make do. You peel the hide back and you start taking meat off and putting it in bags until you're down to the bones. It's not rocket science. You'll get better at it the more you do it. But I think people think there's like some top secret way to, it's not. Just, you know what meat is. Get the meat. Again, if you mess up, despite what lure there might be, unless you drop anthrax on it or, somehow douse it in gasoline or something, the meat's going to be fine. You can wash it off. Don't be afraid to butcher an animal. Yeah, you'll probably mess it up. There's probably way better ways to do it than the first time you do it. But there's going to have to be a first time. If you're doing like a whole animal, if you're moving it out whole, get the guts out if it's going to be any length of time before you get to butcher it. Take the guts out so it can cool down inside there. The guts are the main thing that's going to cause it to spoil. Then remove the hide and start removing the meat. It's not rocket science. You can pay a butcher if you want, but part of the thing that I like, and apparently my mother-in-law likes too, is processing the meat, making sausage, making jerky, making all the different things. I like doing that as much as I like the hunt. I like, feeding my family, my wife, myself with meat that God blessed me to get. And I put it on the table. Now, if you want to take it to a butcher or a processor, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine too. But again, that's not hard. I've done episodes on that before, so I'm not going to get too far into that. But as far as the butchering tips and tricks go, just do it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes in hunting or in butchering or in processing, right? The only big tips I'm going to give you that you probably shouldn't do is leave the guts in for any length of time. right? Unless you're hunting in South Georgia, meat will generally last a long time once you get the guts out, a lot longer than you might think. And a lot of times I'll hang and age meat for weeks outside, and it's fine. Again, depending on the temperature and stuff, but once you get the guts out, you'd be surprised at how long meat will last. So again, don't be afraid of it. The next tip I'm going to give you, I've harped on it a lot lately, but I'll harp on it again because I see such a prevalent ridiculousness in modern gun culture. Get off the bench with your rifle. Get off the bench, get off the bench, get off the bench. Once your rifle is zeroed and sighted in on the bench, and I said because I'm about to go zero some rifles on the bench today, but after that, practice not on the bench unless you are like hunting in, I think they do this in Texas where like you have a corn feeder and you have like an actual bench and a blind and you shoot off a bench at a deer that's eaten off a feeder. If you want to do that, that's fine. But if that's not how you hunt, if you don't hunt off a bench, then don't just take your gun and zero it on the bench. Practice off the bench. Get off the bench. Go somewhere where you can, set up clay targets at different distances and walk through the woods and shoot some standing, sitting, kneeling, prone, or something like that, right? Once your gun is zeroed and you shot it a little bit in different positions, you might want to get a 22 set up similar like a bolt action 22 with a scope and practice your snap shooting. Practice your mostly shootings from standing. If you're a spot and stalk and still hunter, as I prefer, most of my shots are from standing. But whatever you're comfortable with, right? Practice throwing your pack down and resting your rifle on your pack or whatever you do, right? But get off the bench. That's my other big tip there. Get off the bench. Anyway, those are the main tips I have for you. Get out there, men. Be out in God's creation. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows us his handiwork. The mountains, the swamps, the beauty of a sunrise or a sunset, the wind whistling through the leaves, all of that is a small revealing of the power and beauty of God. Get out there in it, enjoy it, and enjoy what God provides, and meat on the table. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all that you do. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.